Crisis Services of North Alabama is holding their annual Turkey Trot this week, and they need more people to participate. The Turkey Trot is their biggest fundraiser of the year, and due to the pandemic, fewer people have signed up. Registration for the now virtual event costs $30 and ends on November 26th. The funds help provide support groups and counseling services to people in need.
Around 40,000 people use our services every year, and those people would just be left without. And so we just can't do that. We can't shut down. And this Turkey Trot is so important to let us continue to do what we're doing, especially now when arguably our services are even more critical.
For more information and how to sign up, head to rocketcitynow.com.